Thanks, Tom. Our next speaker today is a man my dad considered a friend and compatriot. They shared many views, disagreed on a few, but I think it's fair to say that through it all, even though they were from different political parties, he was Dad's all-time favorite member of Congress. He has served our community, our state, and our country with great distinction. Please welcome a man who has been here for each of these wreath-laying ceremonies over the years, former Congressman Rob Simmons. Rob.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks everybody for coming out today. We're gathered here to honor two patriotic sons of Norwich. One, State Senator Bill Stanley, and the second, President Samuel Huntington. And yes, I said President Samuel Huntington. Many of us are familiar with the life of Samuel Huntington. We heard a little bit about it just a few minutes ago in song. Born in Scotland, Connecticut, 1731. Studied law, moved to Norwich in 1754, served as selectman, then state rep, just so that our state reps know, he served as state rep, and then eventually was sent as a delegate to the Second Continental Congress, where he signed the Declaration of Independence. What kind of man was he? What kind of men signed the Declaration of Independence? What was their character? What were their values? Well, if you look at what happened to them, it'll give you a sense of that. 5 were captured by the British and tortured. 9 died fighting in the Revolutionary War. 4 lost their sons fighting in the Revolutionary War. Over a dozen had their homes and property destroyed, many dying destitute. All of them came from prosperous families and educated families, even if they were self-educated. They had security in their community, but they wanted liberty. And in signing that declaration, pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. As we stand here today, reflecting on those times, I wonder how many of us would have the courage to do the same. Of course, most of us would not be here today honoring Samuel Huntington and the forgotten founders if it wasn't for Senator Bill Stanley. He brought the attention of Norwich and the nation to the fact that Samuel Huntington was the first president of the United States. Wait a minute, George Washington, right? Wrong. According to Bill, on March 1st, 1781, while serving as president of the Second Continental Congress, Huntington became, quote, the President of the United States in Congress assembled under the newly ratified Articles of Confederation. Thereafter, even George Washington, who was serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, referred to him in official correspondence as Dear Mr. President. Remind that to your Virginia friends. Linked up some years ago to our interest and work. I remember he told me and said, next week, New York City television is coming to Norwich to hear our story about Samuel Huntington. And I said, well, do they believe it? He said, well, no, they don't. And he said, will you join me? I need a double team to make sure we can take them on. I said, well, of course. This is exciting. So I went Huntington house at the appointed the television crew arrived, and it was clear to me that they had been joking on the way up. They're coming to eastern Connecticut, to Norwich, which they have called Norwich. We call it Norwich. States one George Washington. Well, the irony is that Bill had a huge sheaf of papers, official documents, photographs, and other items, and everything on the tip of his tongue. And when our discussion was over and they began filming, we had him halfway home. And I would say before the day was over, they came in laughing, but they left believing. That was the nature of Bill Stanley. That was what he was able to do. So the lesson for the day is that history shines a bright light on the greatness of the people that live in our community. But also, it takes great men like Senator Bill Stanley to remind us all that our community is host to other great men, such as President Samuel Huntington, our first President of the United States in Congress assembled. I say thank you, Bill, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Rob. That was Dad. Never saw a fight that he didn't want to jump into the middle of. And as my sisters will attest, and anybody else who's engaged in debate with my father, there was no winning. You might have been arriving at an honorable truce, but there was no winning an argument with Dad. Speaking of which, he once asked me at the beginning of this great tradition, do you think we could get Dick Blumenthal to come up and participate in the event? And I said, Dad, with all due respect, on a Sunday afternoon in the middle of July, you know, he's married, he's got 4 kids, and I don't think so. Well, not long after that, with a smile of self-satisfaction, he pulled me aside and said, guess who our keynote speaker is going to be at the Wreath Lane? I said, don't tell me Dick Blumenthal. He said, Dick Blumenthal is going to come up. Well, every year since the beginning, Dick Blumenthal has made the trip up the Connecticut Turnpike to Norwich on a beautiful, sunny Sunday afternoon, leaving family and friends behind in Greenwich. And if you've driven lately on Interstate 95 or even I-395, you'll have an even greater appreciation for the commitment that this gentleman, this friend of our families, has made. He is our State Attorney General. He has also served our community, our state, and our nation with great distinction. Attorney General Dick Blumenthal.
I will say again now what I said the first time I came to this ceremony, which is that I am honored and privileged and proud to be here. And by the way, there is nothing I wouldn't do for Bill Stanley or his family. And I will say again, as I said the first year, there's a lot of traffic on I-95 today. And it is once again a beautiful, sunny, very hot day in this beautiful place. And I want to thank all of you for being here, all of you for taking the time wherever you came from, and to the town, to Norwich, for providing us with this place of exquisite beauty and dignity and peace that so reflects the spirit of Sam Huntington. And I feel that Bill Stanley is very much with us today. Every so often when I wanted to, forgive me, get a rise out of Bill, I would call him and I would suggest that maybe maybe, just maybe, that there was historical evidence to suggest that Sam Huntington, in fact, as the first president of the Continental Congress, was not the first president of the United States. And as Bill has mentioned, there was no winning that argument. There was a 30-minute, if I was lucky, a 30-minute argument, and then there was an honorable truce. But at the end of it, I think that Bill convinced many of us and many of you that there was a lot of merit to his argument. But, you know, quite honestly, at the end of the day, what mattered most to Bill, I felt, was the respect that we accord today to Sam Huntington, a founder, truly a founder of our great nation, the greatest that has ever existed in the history of the planet, the freest and the most democratic. And in 1775, what the signers of the Declaration did essentially was they signed their own death warrant. From that moment forward, if caught by the British, they would be executed. Not with a lot of trial and due process, on the spot, executed. All of their properties confiscated, and all of their relatives imprisoned or executed. They were caught. Think of the drama of that service and sacrifice. Not only by Sam Huntington, but by all of his co-founders on that day. And many of them, in fact, sacrificed their property, their lives, their treasure, but not their honor. The lesson of Sam Huntington's life is that whatever positions one may have, and he had many of distinction, governor, judge, and yes, president, what matters most is the deeds, not the titles. And Sam Huntington and Bill Stanley shared this fundamental fact. They were both men of deep, passionate beliefs, willing to serve and sacrifice for those beliefs, willing to do anything for what they thought was right, and willing to support people who did what they thought was right, including, by the way, not only the veterans who are here today, but the young men and women who are serving and sacrificing at this very moment abroad in uniform, as well as our firemen and police, who put themselves in harm's way so that these essential freedoms and liberties are made real and defended for all of us. And they all deserve our applause and our admiration. Sam Huntington and Bill Stanley also shared a deep love of this nation. In 1731, when he was born, in 1775, when he signed the Declaration, in 1781, when he became our nation's first president, we were a nation unknown, unstoried, unexplored, whose greatness lay ahead. Bill Stanley knew a lot of the greatness that this nation has achieved, but he believed in its future just as Sam Huntington did. He believed in the American dream. And we are alive today, and we are enjoying the American dream, having come from many different continents, our ancestors having come here from places where liberty was routinely denied, where men and women were typically executed for those same beliefs that Sam Huntington advocated, having come here for the opportunity and the American dream that this country and Sam Huntington and Bill Stanley made sure that we enjoy today. So I feel that both Bill Stanley and Sam Huntington are with us today as we celebrate this birthday and say to Sam Huntington, happy birthday, Godspeed, God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dick. At this time, we will unveil a brass plaque that my dad and Mom Peg commissioned in honor of Samuel Huntington. This is one of a number of plaques at Norwich's many historic sites that were generously paid for by individuals and institutions from throughout